So now we have John Pazdan. Now if I have my John's right. I will say that what John Jacobs just now said about you need the IEs to get it done, I love that. I'm going to make sure that we tell that to our freshmen. You'll also see that we have a lot of IE entrepreneurs. So going from John Jacobs to John Pazdan, both are entrepreneurs who have been important. John Pazdan, I remember from earlier conversations, has been a serial entrepreneur, and the company that he's leading right now supplies automotive manufacturers across the Southeast. And John Pazdan has identical twin daughters. Raise your hand, so I'll know I've got the right one. There we go. Thank you. So, with that, I would like to invite everyone to join me in welcoming and congratulating John Pazdan, please.
Thank you, Julie. A meaningful couple of days for me. My wife and I got in late last night, and we were played a golf tournament yesterday that was in memory of my brother, who passed away a couple of years ago of a brain tumor. Hurried up here for this obviously meaningful event. And then we go from here to Chapel Hill, where a business school buddy of mine's daughter gets married tomorrow. And he and I were a couple of the only engineers in our business school class in Chapel Hill. So sorry to mention the other guys, but that's what we're doing. But anyway, when Dean Swan called me and said that this award was going to take place, and obviously it meant a lot to me, but it does make you kind of cram a lot of thoughts, whether it be your college years or what's transpired since then, into a 5-minute kind of talk. So I hope you'll bear with me as I kind of bounce around through a number of things. Actually, it wasn't engineering that brought me to NC State, it was golf. So I came here on a golf scholarship and lived in an old, dumpy athletic dorm called the College Inn. I don't know whether anybody remembers that place, but it was anything but an athletic dorm. But it was a fantastic time to be on campus. It was 1981, 1982, and then of course 1983, which everyone remembers. So wandering around Case Athletic Center with Jim Valvano and a bunch of basketball players, it was just a very memorable time. And so athletically, it was a fun time to be on campus. I did bounce around a little bit. Golf requires a lot of time, and so I started out in chemical engineering. I ended up in mechanical engineering. Found my way to industrial engineering, and I don't know that I really had a plan. It was more or less what classes can you take at 7:50 in the morning so that you can be on a golf course in the afternoon. So it was just kind of this random college. I was telling my daughter earlier, my 4 years here were I would say anything but fun. I mean, it was busy. It was very busy, but it's kind of like Steve Jobs said in his commencement address at Stanford. You really don't know until you get there and you look back kind of what your path is. And so anyway, a little bit more about my path. Graduated, went to work for a large company, Square D Corporation. Bounced around. They had me in Illinois for a while, then Orlando, Florida. Then I decided to go back to Chapel Hill for business school. And I didn't know much, but I knew I liked making things, and I knew I didn't want to work for a large company. They had 25,000 employees, and it just didn't feel right to me. So that kind of catapulted me into a career in smaller companies. And the company that I spent the majority of my time with actually was started by my wife's grandfather. And he had moved from the Northeast to the Southeast as part of the textile migration. And the company had been successful, but textiles had long since left the Southeast. We lived in Greenville, South Carolina. They'd gone to Mexico and then subsequently to Asia. And so this business was just kind of floating along. Fortunately, the automotive industry kind of filled that void. And I don't know, how much you study the automotive industry, but there was this migration to assembling cars in the Southeast, and obviously the Carolinas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama have been the beneficiaries of that. So we ended up changing the course of the business to the automotive supply chain. And that was the first time that my industrial engineering really started to make sense. When you think about an automobile, you've got 25,000 parts. You've got engineers that are designing things. Maybe the market wants to buy them. Maybe the market doesn't want to buy them. Maybe you're going to supply things in China and Japan and what have you. But you got to figure out a way to get it all done. And it's a fascinating industry, and it's one that's so integral to our country. And so that started a journey, a 20-year journey with this company. We did corrosion-resistant coatings, primarily underbody, a lot of work in the brake area of the car. I traveled extensively. We were a small company, but all of our customers were large companies. And I learned a lot. The first real lesson I got in world-class manufacturing was from the Robert Bosch Corporation. So I was able to see their plants, and I was able to see how they approached world-class manufacturing. And what I tried to do was just emulate what they did. Small company copying bigger companies. And so you start looking at, ISO TS, and you start looking at Lean Six Sigma and all those tools, and I basically was just copying what larger companies did. It led us to where we really felt like a large company. Fortunately, unfortunately, we did end up growing to a certain size, and it was a very capital-intensive business where we did end up transitioning to a Dutch public company, and the company's still thriving now. But it really has. I think manufacturing, fortunately, is making a comeback in this country. There was a time where it seemed like everything was either being pushed to Mexico, being pushed to China. I think the students that are here, you're all very encouraged by the fact that there really is a focus on making things in this country again, and I think that's going to bode well for the future. I did notice that one of the speakers is Bank of America, and I love the process improvement side. You think about banking. How does that all fit in? My daughter's here, and she works for a hospital, so she got a master's in public health at Chapel Hill, and she works in a hospital in Greenville, a Catholic hospital in Greenville. And she actually went through a Lean Six Sigma class. Which to me, 30 years ago, would you have envisioned that? But healthcare, you talk about an industry that really needs to embrace a lot of what we have to offer. Healthcare is one of them. So I think the future is bright for you all that are just embarking on this journey, and let it take you wherever. I do think the skills that you're going to have here are going to really serve you well in the future. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you. Glad to be here. Glad to be back reconnected.